Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
Packers returned to practice yesterday. Jordan Love also returning to practice, although it was limited fashion, but he was out suited up and participating in a little 7-on-7 period. So good to see him back out there on the practice field. Matt LaFleur a couple days ago was hoping that was going to be the case, and we got to see him. But we got to see some new injuries yesterday too, not participating. Aaron Banks, Jacob Monk, Lucas Van Ness, Kenny Clark. Hopefully that was just a little precaution, because Banks, Van Ness, and Kenny Clark all listed with back issues. Hopefully just precautionary such. But, man, what's going on with the back injuries? I mean, it's just, we all have back stuff, so hopefully it's just a little precautionary stuff out there. But, man, oh, man. But we got Seattle's going to be coming in this week for some joint practicing and such ahead of the final Saturday preseason game. So this is a big week. This is a big week for a lot of these players on this roster in terms of making jobs or getting a job, winning a job, having a role on this team. And this is their last shot to either be on the active roster, that 53-man roster, or maybe even to be on the practice squad. And I look at, when I was looking at this yesterday to get ready for today, I'm looking at some of these players, and I'm like, because we have seen it time and time again entering that last preseason game. There have been guys that have won jobs based off of their performance in that last preseason game. Desmond Howard was one of those guys back in the day. You could go Jaron Elliott. You could go, the list is there. Undrafted guys or free agents or late round draft picks or veterans trying to continue their career, resurrect their career. It's been all over. So with this final preseason game, we probably won't see a lot of the starters, if any of the starters at all, right? That's just the case. Probably not that big of a deal. But for some of these guys, it's their final interview. Essentially, it's a job interview to make the ball club. And there's a few guys on this list that I was looking at, and I'm like, boy, they really got to have a good week, and they've got to have probably a good showing on Saturday. And I'm going to start off. So I got a few guys here. It's kind of like a make or break, do or die, put up or shut up sort of thing. And I'm going to start off with a couple of veterans on this thing. I'm going to start off with Isaiah Simmons and Mecole Hardman. Isaiah Simmons has not had a good preseason. I know we kind of went into depth with it the other day, but to me, he is really on the bubble, because I also look at the job that Tyron Hopper has done with his preseason action. He has put together two very good defensive performances, the third-round pick from last year. And Isaiah Simmons has struggled, especially when it's come in coverage. He has given up a ton of catches and a lot of yards. He has not had a good preseason. Now, when he was signed, I know there was some excitement surrounding it because he's a former first-round pick. And whenever you sign a former first-round pick, there's going to be some intrigue. There's going to be some excitement. And then you add in, hey, we're just going to focus on him playing linebacker. It's like, all right, we're going to really, maybe we get to really resurrect his career, and maybe this is a signing that's going to, look like Goody's a genius. And I don't fault Goody for kicking the tires and bringing him in and trying it. But right now, it's just he hasn't been playing well. And for him to make this ball club, I think it's a tough hill right now. But he is going to have to ball out on Saturday. He's going to maybe have to create a turnover. He's going to have a sack. He is really, 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 really going to have to showcase it, because I think when I look at the linebacker depth chart, It's Cooper, it's Quay Walker, it's Isaiah McDuffie, your starters in base. Right now, I would pick Hopper over Simmons, and I think Christian Welch too, because of his special teams play. So Simmons right now is 6th. If I were to power rank my linebackers on this squad, he's at 6th. And I don't know if they carry 6 linebackers, especially when kind of your base defense is a nickel defense and you're taking away a linebacker. So if they keep 6, maybe he's got a shot. Maybe Johnson gets a shot over him. But right now, Isaiah Simmons has to. And honestly, even if he has a really good game on Saturday, I don't know if he makes the ball club. And then the other veteran, Mecole Hardman. Now, Hardman might actually benefit. If I had to pick between these two veterans, who's got the better shot to maybe make the ball club, I'd probably go with Hardman. And part of it is special teams returner. The other part is just some of the injuries going on with the wide receivers right now. Hardman, obviously, with that first preseason game with the fumble, with the muff punt. I mean, inexcusable. But what I think helped him out a little bit too, because I honestly think it's between him and Malik Heath right now from that wide receiver position. And honestly, with some of the injuries, maybe both make them. Hey, can Bo Melton switch over from corner back to wide receiver right now? We might need him at the play wide receiver now too with some of these injuries. Who knows? That might actually help Bo Melton's case to make this ball club, not just at corner, but it's like, hey, we might need some more wide receivers now too. Bo, put your 80 back on. Move from 16 to 80. We need you back at wide receiver, dude. But Hardman, I think, has, if I had to pick between him and Simmons of which veteran is most likely to make this ball club or better chance to make this ball club, I'm going to go with Hardman because of what, special teams returner and such, but some of the injuries at the wide receiver department. Because Matt LaFleur was asked, was it yesterday, hey, Reed and Wicks, they going to play week 1? His response, I sure hope so. All right, that's not really a big endorsement. But Savion Williams, rookie, he's been banged up too. But Hardman, if he goes out there and he has an opportunity, let's say, to pull a Desmond Howard, and let's say he returns a punt for a touchdown, then I was like, okay, check mark, he's probably on. I would lean towards that he is on this team, but he, I think, could really solidify it with a very good game or a solid game on Saturday, making some plays, making a couple big plays out there. In that case, though, too, Malik Heath might be in that same kind of boat. Now, he doesn't have the luxury of being a punt returner or a kick returner, so he's not going to have those options to make the ball club. But again, the wild card in this whole thing is some of the injuries to the wide receivers. Tua Reed, Tua Savion, Tua Wicks. Could there be a possibility that maybe Savion Williams starts the season on injured reserve and misses the first 4 games? Does that open the door for a guy like Malik Heath? Possibly. It possibly could. But I'm looking at those two guys of like, all right, you've got to have a really good game. You're kind of on that line of put up or shut up, do or die, try to win a job on Saturday. And this thing, you might see some guys really balling out, maybe pushing it a little bit, trying a little too hard to make a play, and I get it. They have to. One of those guys, a couple of those, I look at tight ends here now too. We know the top 2, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. A lot of this is going to depend on, how many guys they keep at other positions, and are they able to keep 4 tight ends, or are they going to just keep 3? Fitzpatrick, Ben Sims, depending on the numbers elsewhere on other position groups, that might be dependent on how many tight ends they decide to carry. And it's going to come down to Fitzpatrick or Ben Sims. Now, if one of those two guys, now I would imagine Tucker Kraft maybe doesn't play in this final preseason game. So you would imagine plenty of opportunities for a Fitzpatrick and Sims in this game to maybe separate themselves from one another. If one of those guys has the better game or has some bigger plays in this upcoming contest, maybe that's what, you kind of want to move up to being that third option. Again, if we're ranking the tight ends, right? Depth charted. It's Tucker, it's Musgrave. Well, who's the third guy? Because I would imagine at bare minimum they're going to keep 3. Probably would like to keep 4, but a lot of it's going to depend on other positions on this team and where they decide to keep more guys than not. I mean, if it was a straight up, yep, we're keeping 6 receivers, we're going to keep 8 offensive linemen, we're going to keep, 7 corners. If it was always the same, it would be easier to figure this stuff out, but it's not. And what we think and what they think over at 1265 Lombardi Avenue is going to be completely different. Staying on the offensive side of things, you're looking at the offensive line behind the top 7. They're said it at the beginning of preseason, and it's still the same. To me, there are 7 locks on the offensive line. Elton Jenkins, Zach Tom, Sean Ryan, Aaron Banks, Jordan Morgan, Rasheed Walker, Anthony Belton. Those are your 7 locks. Yes, Anthony Belton had a horrific first half in game 2, but he's a second-round pick, rookie this year. He ain't getting cut. 7 locks. How many offensive linemen are you keeping? Going to keep 8? Going to keep 9? Going to keep 10? I'm looking at guys, and now it kind of makes it maybe a little bit more difficult for him. But like Jacob Monk, who right now, depth chart-wise, he's your backup center. But he missed yesterday's practice due to a hamstring. We'll see if he's able to get out on the field. I know they like him. 5th-round pick from last year, I believe. I believe he was a 5th-rounder. But Sean Ryan's been getting some snaps at center. Could they go a little bit of a different route? Donovan Jennings on this thing. Does a Tyler Cooper, a Kadeem Telfer. Again, this is a position group. How many offensive linemen do you want to keep? 7 locks. Maybe a couple more spots open. If Monk does play, I would say he's had the best training camp or the best preseason. Not what I think the expectation should be from him heading into his second year. So if he does play on Saturday, I think everybody would feel a lot better if he goes out there and has himself a really good game. Trey Hill. Names you probably don't know right now, but you might want to be a little bit familiar with in case their number is called upon this year if there's an injury. So, know the names of a Donovan Jennings, know the names of a Jacob Monk, know the names of a Trey Hill, know the names of a Tyler Cooper, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But those are the guys that have to go out there and have themselves a game Saturday to, again, it might just be 2 spots on that offensive line opened up. They say the 5 best will play. You've got to keep the 5 or the 9 best, let's just say 9 best offensive linemen. Defensively, I think the Barron Sorrell injury opened up a door. Now, we don't know exactly how long he's going to be out. But, again, the rookie was a lock to make the team. I'll just say that. I know he was a 4th-round pick in that. To me, he was having a good preseason. He was having a good training camp. The knee injury, don't know how long he's going to be out. But if he does open up the season on injured reserve, he's going to have to miss the first 4 games of the season. It opens up the door for somebody else. We know the starters. Those are locks. Gary, Clark, Wyatt, Van Ness. Boo, bang, here we go. Now, after that, it's the question, again, how many are you going to keep? I'm looking at Brenton Cox Jr. I'm looking at Colby Wooden. I'll even throw Enoch Barre in there and Aaron Mosby. Those guys as guys that they got to ball out. Because with our 4 stars, I think Stackhouse, the undrafted kid's going to make it. Warren Brinson, he is a rookie. I'm going to throw him on that list, too, of, balling out. Carl Brooks, I think, is going to make the team. I think he's going to be back. So that's 5. But if you want to throw him in that mix, go for it. To me, this is one of the more intriguing position groups heading into this final preseason game. Because we know the 4 starters. And if we add in Sorrell as maybe going to miss some time, that opens up a door for maybe a couple more spots. This is a position group to really focus on to see who balls out, who has themselves a really good game, and then maybe that's what locks them in or secures a spot on the roster for them. I'm really looking at guys like a Brenton Cox Jr. I will throw Enagbare in there, Kiki, Aaron Mosby. Those defensive ends really kind of intrigue me in this one because with the Sorrell injury, do they keep all 3? Possibly, and that's a very good possibility. It really could happen now. But if they decide to keep, maybe he's not going to start season on injured reserve in that. And remember, that's that whole thing, too. You got to carry them. It's the weird rules. You got to carry them and then put them on injured reserve, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if there's only 2 spots available for a defensive end, maybe one or 2, Brenton Cox, Kiki, Aaron Mosby, who's it going to go to? And then the interior defensive line there, too. Carl Brooks. Maybe there's only, and I would say Brooks and Stackhouse are probably going to make it. Maybe it comes down to a Colby Wooden and Warren Brinson. Defensive line is going to be one where I think there's going to be some jobs potentially won on Saturday. Talked about the linebacker already. Isaiah Simmons just has to have a fantastic game. Corner, Keyshawn, Hobbs, Carrington. Those are locks. We'll throw Javon Bullard in there with the nickel with the slot roll. Those are locks. After that, Bo Melton, if he goes out there and has himself a really good game, this is another intriguing group too because how many do you carry? Plus, Bullard is the safety / slot roll, so you have a little bit of flexibility there. Maybe you can keep an extra corner on there because, well, Bullard's also a backup safety, right? So, to me, I'm looking at this, okay, let's say you keep 6 or 7. And let's just count Javon Bullard in this for this exercise. Keyshawn, Hobbs, Valentine, Bullard. You're talking 2 to 3 more spots open for guys like Bo Melton, Kalen King, Micah Robinson, Kamal Hayden. I know Corey Valentine got hurt, but I look at a guy like Bo Melton. If he wants to make this roster at the cornerback spot, he's got to ball out for this one to secure that spot. I think he's trending to make this team. A lot of it is for special teams and the speed and the versatility he brings. But if he really wants to secure that, I think he's got to ball out and have himself a game on Saturday. Same with maybe a Kalen King. I thought Kalen King was going to make the team last year, ended up being on the practice squad. Same for Micah Robinson. This group is very similar to me with the defensive line group. You've got your locks, your 4 locks, and maybe 2 to 3 more spots open with a handful of guys still in the running for this thing. Safety, I think with the injuries, it's kind of maybe played itself out here a little bit. Xavier, Evan Williams, you throw Javon Bullard in there. With the Omar Brown injury, Zane Anderson got hurt in week 1. Oladapo has played well. I think that one's kind of played itself in. But for me, there's still a lot of it, intrigue heading into this third and final preseason game with some jobs on the line. Corners, defensive line, back end offensive line, and then you're looking at a couple of veterans with Mecole Hardman and Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons, more than Hardman, in my opinion, really needs to ball out and have himself a game to try to make this roster. I think, overall, I think Goody and the coaching staff, they've got a good idea of maybe who's kind of trending upward or who they're going to keep and such, but I think they're definitely keeping an open mind for some players heading into this game. I think you have to. But I think they've probably got, let's say, 53-man roster. Probably have a good idea of maybe about 48? Would you say 48 guys they already know, maybe even higher, maybe about 50, 48 to 50 guys that they know are going to make this ball club. So maybe there's a couple of spots, a couple of openings right now. And here's the thing too. So after Saturday, I'm going to do my prediction. I'm going to do my roster prediction, my 53-man roster prediction. But there's also a chance too that depending on who gets released, who gets cut in the final cutdowns, there might be different dudes that are going to join the team. The 53, and I think this is a good reminder for every season, the 53 that get announced by the Packers, the initial, we got to put this word in there, the initial 53. Because that is not going to be the roster buyout. There's a good chance that is not going to be the roster that will open up the season week 1 against the Lions. Because you are going to have those guys that you have to carry on your roster first, your initial 53, and then you put them on injured reserve. That way they can return. If they're put on beforehand, then they're going to be done for the year and such. So there's going to be that change. There could also be a change depending on who gets cut, and maybe the Packers that's too good of a guy to let go. We want to bring this guy onto our ball club. It's kind of similar to last year in the sense that we entered that final game. Was it the Ravens, I believe? Yeah, the Ravens. Final preseason game against the Ravens. Where it was okay, what are we going to do at backup quarterback? And even the kicker. Remember last year at this time, we were like, maybe they're going to find a backup quarterback on the free agent market after cuts. Maybe find another kicker. It's exactly what they did, although they traded for Malik Willis. And when you think about it, for this team, I don't know if there is that guy. Or, I don't know if there is that position group like they had last year where it was desperate, okay, their options right now just not working out. It ain't working out. Backup quarterback was bad last year. It was and, thankfully, Goody also recognized it. We got to do something different. And, Malik Willis ended up having to play a couple games last year. But, I'm trying to think of, where is that position on this team? And I think is maybe one of them. Again, the seriousness of some of the injuries, I guess maybe a wide receiver. Romeo sounds like he's going to be good to go. Nothing, no concern there. Matthew Golden's going to be there. Then you kind of look at maybe a little nervous there. I mean, could they potentially, if there was a veteran or a different wide receiver that becomes available, maybe they add somebody in that department just to get a little bit more depth and maybe just healthier depth? Do they look if there's a defensive lineman? I don't think it's quite to the level of last year with those two particular position groups like the quarterback and kicker was. I mean, it's nice to know we're heading into this thing okay, McManus is on a roll right now. We got to hey, special teams, we're set with kicker and punter. All right. I'd be curious, though, what they do. I think they're only going to carry two quarterbacks, and maybe a Sean Clifford's back in the practice squad and that, but I think, for that third quarterback, back in the day, it was always okay, the third quarterback. You knew teams were going to carry three quarterbacks, right? Now it's majority keep two because of the practice squad rules, and, you can stash one on there and such. Sean Clifford last year for having a poo-poo of a preseason and not winning that backup quarterback job. As you look at what he did against the Colts and such, maybe he's secured that practice squad spot over Taylor. I don't know. But, you kind of look at for this game, too, coming up here, for this final preseason game. I know I didn't mention the quarterbacks here because, I think it's a foregone conclusion right now. We know the top two, and I honestly feel like they're only going to carry two. But if they figure out who's going to be the practice squad quarterback, it's going to be a battle between Sean and Taylor. And, Taylor got the first reps over Sean in game 2 against the Colts, but Sean was the guy that led the comeback. So, and I did kind of forget to mention the running back spot, too, outside of Josh Jacobs. I think the injury to Marshawn Lloyd opened up the door for maybe an Amar Johnson. I think that's I missed on this one because I do think if Amar Johnson, let's say, or maybe in Israel, they go out there and they just ball out. I mean, Emmanuel Wilson was that guy a couple of years ago, right? Was it the Seattle? I think the final preseason game was it Seattle a couple of years ago? If my memory serves me correct. But, he goes out there, he's kind of like the preseason guy and wins himself a job for the performance he did in the preseason. Maybe he's in that same boat. Or maybe they just run it back with the guys they know. Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks backing up Josh Jacobs. But if Amar Johnson goes out there and, I don't know, runs for 80 yards with a touchdown, or Israel goes out there, does the same thing, could they unseat Emmanuel Wilson? Could they unseat Chris Brooks? It's possible. And I think it's absolutely possible. So, yeah, look at the running back position. I forgot to mention that one. Look at that group, because I think there's a chance if one of those guys, whether it's Wilson, whether it's Brooks, whether it's Johnson, whether it's Israel, if one of those dudes just has themselves a day on Saturday against Seattle, puts up really good numbers, is running the ball really well, maybe they win that third running back spot. Because I think it's, nothing's official in that, but that might, with the Marshawn Lloyd injury, I think he's going to miss the first few weeks of the season and ultimately be placed on injured reserve. And that opens up a job for this third running back spot. And this is, again, going back to the roster cuts, too. It's going to be hard to figure out the 53-man roster prediction, because if you do put a guy on waivers with the intention of bringing him back after you put some guys on injured reserve, you're placing a risk. You're putting a risk out there that some other team is going to claim him, right? So you might see these instances where when it's the final roster cut down, you see why are they carrying 4 running backs? Why? And they only have, I don't know, let's just say 4 wide receivers. They won't, but who knows? It's probably because they feel like, hey, if we put this guy on waivers, some team's going to claim him. So we're going to hold on to him, let the waiver process go through, then, kind of cut him, put him on, stash him on our practice squad after all the teams have filled out their rosters. Then we can kind of massage our roster a little bit more. You're going to see that. It happens almost every single year. That initial 53-man roster, there's going to be players on there why are they keeping so many of that one position? Probably because they're afraid that guy's going to get picked up, and they got to go through the whole injured reserve sort of thing. So I think there's going to be some really tough decisions when it comes to Goody, LaFleur, and this whole staff trying to figure out that initial 53-man roster. And that's the other thing, too. Green Bay's probably going to put some waiver claims on other guys that we don't know about right now.